Hello, welcome to this video. My name is Marco Nijen and I'm a trainer at Microsoft. This video is part of a series of videos about the role of a Microsoft cybersecurity architect. In this video, we will discuss the topic of threat intelligence. Unlock the power of threat intelligence with this insightful video as we explore why it matters, how it works, and what every cybersecurity architect needs to know to stay ahead of cyber threats. The content of this video is mostly aligned with the area of security operations, identity, and compliance from a certification perspective. Now a question, why do we need threat intelligence? That's the main question for this video. So what is it? You can choose. You can look at the question and the answers and decide for yourself. Threat intelligence is the process of collecting, analyzing, and disseminating information about current or potential cyber attacks? Or is it B, the knowledge of vulnerabilities and weaknesses of a system or network? Or C, the ability to predict and prevent future cyber attacks based on past data? The most correct one in this would be option A, right? And threat intelligence is not just raw data, but rather actionable information that can help organizations to understand the motives, tactics, techniques, and procedures of their adversaries, as well as to identify and mitigate threats. Threat intelligence can also help to improve the security posture and resilience of an organization by informing its strategy, policies, and decisions. Option B in here is incorrect because it describes vulnerability assessment, which is part of threat intelligence, but not the whole concept. Vulnerability assessment is the process of identifying and evaluating the risks and weaknesses of a system or network that could be exploited by an attacker. And option C is incorrect because it describes threat forecasting or anticipation, which is also part of threat intelligence, but not the whole concept. Threat forecasting or anticipation is the process of using historical data, current trends, and expert opinions to estimate the likelihood, impact, and nature of future cyber attacks. Learning objectives. The objective is to understand what threat intelligence is and how we can integrate it in our systems and to have better understanding of threats that are out there. Threat intelligence is the process of collecting, analyzing, and disseminating information about current and emerging threats to an organization's assets, operations, and reputations. Threat intelligence can help organizations to identify and prioritize the most relevant and imminent threats, as well as to understand the tactics, techniques, and procedures, TTPs, of the threat actors behind them. Threat intelligence can also provide recommendations for mitigating and preventing potential attacks, as well as for enhancing the overall security posture of the organization. It helps us to learn about threat actors' goals, targets, and attack methods. Allows us to make faster, more informed, data-based security decisions and change our approach from reactive to proactive in the fight against our enemies, against the threat actors that are out there. And there are many threat actors. And it is essential to protect ourselves against them. And for that we need information. The kind of information we get from threat intelligence. Now threat intelligence can be classified into three kind of levels: strategic, operational, and tactical. Strategic threat intelligence provides a high-level overview of the threat landscape and long-term trends and implications for an organization's business objectives. Feeds into the risk appetite and the security strategy. Operational threat intelligence focuses more on the current campaigns, activities, and intentions of specific threat actors or groups, as well as their capabilities, infrastructure, and tools. Tactical threat intelligence provides detailed and actionable information about the indicators of compromise, or IOCs, signatures, vulnerabilities, and exploits that are associated with a particular threat or attack vector. Tactical and strategic threat intelligence are complementary. They are interrelated. Tactical threat intelligence helps to detect and respond to immediate threats, while strategic threat intelligence helps to anticipate and prepare for future threats. Tactical threat intelligence is usually collected and analyzed by technical teams, such as security operations centers or incident response teams, using automated tools and feeds. Strategic threat intelligence is usually produced and consumed by executive teams, such as chief information security officers and board members, using human analysis and reports. Both types of threat intelligence require collaboration and communication across the organization, as well as external sources and partners to ensure relevance, accuracy, and timelines. Here I have a full graphic from the MCRA, where before we just looked at part of it, and it shows where threat intelligence fits in. In essence, all roles and responsibilities will benefit from more intelligence. Part of what we get through threat intelligence is information about attackers and their methods. Now, getting informed, who are the adversaries? What are their patterns? What can we do to bring in data into our systems to find matches? Or what can we do to take samples from internal and enrich that for more insights? How can we stay informed? Well, read the news, talk to colleagues, be aware of trends, and there are many sources for you to stay informed. Many sources that can help you start thinking about what the impact will be for your organization. But we are not here to read the news. Any news item I would show in this video, by the way, would be outdated anyway by the time you watch this. So let's look at something more practical. On the graphic, you can see some names. Those are names that Microsoft uses to refer to adversaries that Microsoft has detected. That is the name we will use in our reports, and you will see in our news bulletins, blogs, portals, and inside products and services. In our news, we will use these names, and in our products, you will see them again. In the past, Microsoft used elements from the SI periodic table of elements to reference attackers, but it shifted to natural phenomena. The weather, storm, tsunami, things like that. And this is what we see back in some of the products and services where threat intelligence information is embedded. For example, in Defender XDR. Now, I do not expect you to know all the actors or know all the names we use, but be aware that we have a system for naming. When we mention a storm, then that's an attacker group that is emerging or in development. Or it can be an attack pattern that we are not able to associate with an existing group yet. There's also a yearly report that's good to look at, the Microsoft Digital Defense Report. It's an annual publication that provides a comprehensive overview of the cybersecurity landscape and trends that shape it. The report covers the activities of nation-state actors, cybercriminals, hacktivists, as well as techniques and tools they use to exploit vulnerabilities and compromise systems. The report also highlights the efforts of Microsoft and its partners to protect customers and the broader ecosystem from these threats, and often offers recommendations and best practices for enhancing cybersecurity resilience. The report aims to raise awareness and foster collaboration among stakeholders to improve security and stability of the digital world. It is a form of cyber intelligence, and leverage it to your benefit. For the current video, I've snapshotted an earlier version of the MDDR, the one from 2024, but aside from looking at the most recent report, it can be beneficial to look at older ones like the 2024, the 2023, to get an understanding of the threats and how you can change them. The short link on the graphic will always bring you to the most recent report. So use that short link to read more about these digital defense reports. There are trends. So over the years, we report on trends, and we do that in every defense report. And some of these things we report are recurring issues. Many of the attacks that occurred could have been avoided by following some basic cyber hygiene practices. Many of those practices are present in the frameworks that are part of this course: the Cloud Adoption Framework, the Well-Architected Framework, the Microsoft Cloud Security Benchmark, and the MCRA, the Microsoft Cybersecurity Reference Architectures. So why are they still opportune for attackers? I hope it's not because they are not known. If not addressed, then I do hope it's deliberate, based on risk acceptance, that you know about it and you're accepting the risk that attackers might compromise you. But let us go and inspect how some of the threat intelligence information is available from the UI directly. Because we can integrate threat intel streams into our environment, and actually one stream is already implemented by default in the UI of Microsoft Defender XDR. Microsoft Defender XDR Threat Intelligence gives security teams the ability to project threat data directly onto the digital estate, onto their own environment, with features like exposure analysis, Intel profiles, and the Intel Explorer. Organizations can see how global threat intelligence relates to their specific assets and risks. This means you're not just looking at generic threat data, you're able to understand which threats are the most relevant to your digital estate. and prioritize your response and take targeted actions. By leveraging Defender XDR's integrated threat intelligence, security teams can stay ahead of emerging threats, improve their situational awareness, and strengthen their overall security posture. But threat intelligence is much more than knowing or naming the attacker. What we are typically interested in is understanding if we can see known indicators in our data. For example, do we see any evidence of communication for our systems to an IP address on the internet that's known to be malicious? And how do we know what IP addresses are malicious? That is where threat intelligence comes in. We can ingest indicators into our systems, and again, some of that is done automatically, but we can also have the option to extend, to enrich. In another video in the series, the topic was SIEM, SOAR, and XDR. And these platforms are essentially the starting point for ingesting cyber threat intelligence, CTI, and Microsoft Sentinel would be a prime example. With Sentinel, we can seamlessly integrate and montage threat intelligence from various sources directly into the platform, whether it's manual or through automated feeds. Now, with everything unified within a single integrated environment, security teams can enrich their SecOps data, correlate insights, and act on threat indicators more effectively. But there's more. Identity protection. Identity protection is a service that essentially acts as a specialized source of threat intelligence focused on user identities. In addition to traditional threat intelligence, such as indicators of compromise like malicious IP addresses or malware, signatures, identity protection collects and analyzes signals related to user behavior, credential exposure, and sign-in risks. For example, if credentials associated with your organization are found on the dark web, or if a user attempts to sign in from a location previously linked to malicious activity, identity protection can detect and flag these events as high-risk signals. The value here is that identity protection adds another layer of threat intelligence by continuously monitoring identity-related activities and correlating them with external threat data. These insights are then used to inform access decisions in real time. When a user attempts to access resources, identity protection evaluates whether any risk indicators are present, such as leaked credentials or suspicious sign-in patterns, and can apply conditional access policies accordingly. This means access can be denied, limited, or require additional authentication steps, all based on live threat intelligence feeds. In essence, identity protection extends the reach of your threat intelligence program into the realm of identity and access management. It ensures that not only you are able to monitor the network and device threats, but you're also proactively using intelligence about user risk to enforce zero trust principles. Zero trust, verify explicitly. Verify explicitly for every access request. This integration of identity-based threat intelligence helps organizations respond more effectively to evolving threats and reduces the risk of unauthorized access due to compromised credentials or risky behaviors. And where we had this for users for some time already, there's now also an Entra identity protection capability that extends it to understanding and reporting on workloads. So we need to be informed about attackers. But what about how attackers work? What are common patterns and methods used by attackers? In the industry, there are several examples of frameworks that express what was learned about that. For example, kill chains that explain specific steps attackers will take to get in, to compromise, to cripple an organization. A reference framework for that was adopted in the Microsoft services, and it's the MITRE ATT&CK framework. You'll find this reference in all the products and services when it comes to stages in an attack. On the slide, I've listed some of them, but there are other places where attack is cross-referenced. Let's look at the way it's leveraged. On the slide, I've included a link also to the MITRE ATT&CK framework. Maybe you need to go out and inspect that also. But when you're visiting those pages, by the way, maybe also go look for Atlas. It's another framework created by MITRE, and that's specifically tailored for AI-based patterns. Now, MITRE coverage. One way to use MITRE is illustrated here in Microsoft Defender. In Sentinel, we could have analytical rules, and one might wonder, do we cover all the different stages an attacker can take with our rules that we currently have in our Sentinel instance? And a mapping like this helps to see alignment of rules and attacker techniques. And then we can ask ourselves, are we overexposed or underexposed for a certain attacker area? It can help planning and development of new rules. We are at the end of this video, and what we covered is threat intelligence, what it is, where to find it, and how to start integrating it into our architectures and products. The links mentioned here will bring you to portals and pages with more detail to explore. Go out, enjoy them. I can especially recommend the yearly digital defense report, but I warn you, every year there's so much to report, so these reports are pretty big, so reserve some time for that. So go out and do, and bye for now, until next time, maybe in another video of one of the series, and until that time, please stay safe.